And welcome. This is Peter Winnick. I'm the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage. And you're joining us on the podcast today, which is Leveraging Thought Leadership. Today, my guest is Dan Waldschmidt. Dan is the author of Edgy Conversations. He doesn't just talk about success, he's obsessed with it. He's a champion ultra runner, an elite strategist to business leaders across the world. Dan pushes the limits of high performance in everything that he attempts, whether it's helping a Fortune 100 business grow an emerging business unit by 1,000% year over year, or showing a work from home entrepreneur how to drive radical progress with limited resources. He's fought depression, spearheads his own multi-million-dollar company turnaround, and writes the Edgy Conversation blog that's had over 30 million people around the world read it. He's been praised by the Wall Street Journal, Business Insider, Forbes, and he is the co-founder and partner in a company called Edgy. So welcome aboard, Dan.
When I always listen to hear someone reading my bio, I take a hot minute and go, "Oh, okay, that guy's pretty neat." Then I'm like, "Yeah, no, it's just me, just me."
You want me to read it again?
No. I'm narcissistic, but there's limits to my narcissism.
There you go. Yeah, we haven't had any narcissists on the show as of yet.
None at all. Authors, we are unnarcissistic people.
All right, so we'll try to get you out of your shell today. So your background is really interesting and eclectic, Dan, right? So business leader, you openly talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? You know, suffering from depression, and then the other side of the spectrum being an ultra champion runner and all the other things. One of the things I found interesting in our pre-conversation is what you did with your book, with Edgy Conversations. So tell us about that journey, because it's been a crazy success and you've ignored the advice of everyone to make it that way. So I always love that.
Yeah, sure. I'll tell you the quick story. So the launch of my book was 2014. Let's cut right to the punchline. From 2014, and most books have been sold over the last 3 or 4 years. Now a lot of the books are being sold internationally. But the number was, at last count, 550,243 or something like this. It's a good number of books. And how I did that is the journey, which many of authors are on, right? Is how do you write a book? And so I went through all the emotional angst and frustration and chaos that any other author has. And it started in 2010 when I had already been blogging for 4 years. My blog was started in 2006, back when it wasn't cool to blog.
Yep.
In between that time and now, it's become cool to blog, uncool to blog, and I think we've done that shift 2 or 3 times. I think now we're all on Instagram or something like this.
Right.
But I was blogging, and that's where people were consuming ideas, sharing ideas, and things like that. 2010, I thought I want to package all this and put this into a book. I want a book deal. I thought I wanted a book deal. I think I even shared this with you, Peter. I was like, yeah, let's get this book deal. Let's do it.
Right.
And I got 4 book deals. I was like, yes. And they were all miserable. Namely because I didn't know exactly what I wanted, but I knew what I didn't want. I had this thought in my mind. I wanted the book to be color. And they're like, dude, it's a business book. You're not writing a kid's book. I was like, yeah, but I wanted color inside the book, and so they said, sure, we'll put something on the cover. I said, no, I want the actual pages to be color. So at every step, I found that the publishers wanted me to conform kind of to their standard. Now, if you're listening, you're thinking, yeah, that's me too. Just know that it might take you deep pockets to not work with a publisher. So I'm not telling you to not work with a publisher. Just for me, it didn't work.
Right, but it's not just being a rebel here. You had a vision for what your book was going to be, and they were trying to put a round peg in a square hole to say, yeah, that's all fine and dandy, Dano, but it's a business book, and they're always 212 pages, and they're black and white, and they're whatever, and we don't put cartoons in business books. And you're going, yeah, but my book will, right? So those are things that are at odds,
I had a clear sense for what the book would be. And by the way, if you don't have a clear sense for what your book could be or should be, or whose life it will change, whose life it will be better, you probably shouldn't write your book. That's my opinion.
Yep.
Now, I hear lots of people talking about they want, my book's going to be a calling card. Really? Is it? Because most of those books are can we curse? Can I say shit or no? Is that not allowed?
Yeah, too late now. Yeah.
Yeah. Most of those books are shit.
Right.
They are. They are. Oh, it's going to be a calling card. So now you have a shit,
Well, but
right?
let's push on that. So a lot of people do say, well, a book is a calling card. No, a calling card is a calling card. There is an expectation when you write a book that it is representative of who you are and how you think and what you believe and all those sort of things. And if it's just the takeaway is going to be, yeah, that guy's kind of a dope. Like, why would I want to have further interactions with someone that's barely mediocre?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. If your book says I'm uncreative, if your book says I regurgitate ideas that someone else has had, right?
Right.
If my book is poorly worded, if there's errors and typos, and if there's not a logical beginning, middle, and end to it, then I can assume that you, as the author, are are the manifestation of all those things. You're not curious and you're not interesting and you don't have anything to share with me. And so now you as a person are saying, here's my calling card. We should talk. And someone flips it open and doesn't go past the third page. I think that's interesting, Peter. The average book doesn't get read. So it's a hard challenge just to sell a book. But the average book that someone purchases, someone takes money out of their pocket to
Yep.
buy, the last stats I read said doesn't get read past the third page.
Yeah, well, and Amazon actually was having a battle with the publishers a couple of years ago, saying, "Listen, even if someone buys the book, we only want to pay royalties on the percentage of the book that they read."
That they finish.
Yeah,
Yes, I remember this.
yeah, and that
Yeah,
became
so
World War III because the authors are saying, "Well, you bought the book," and Amazon's going, "Yeah, but if you never made it past page 11, it probably sucks."
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. So maybe start with that premise is what would you want to say and why did you want to say it? So deep down, I felt like there was a story to be told that was not being told. I wanted to share the story of how ordinary people achieve success.
Yep.
And I thought, every book, you read a book by Trump. Here's what I do. Well, most of us aren't born with a silver spoon in our mouth, right? Most of us aren't going to get multi-million-dollar loans from someone in our family, right? Most of us are going to struggle. Most of us are going to suffer from feeling inadequate,
Sure.
right? Do I need more education? Do I need better connections? What's that one skill? What's that one killer, personal thing I need to have in my life in order to be a better version of me? We're always thinking of these things. And so I thought, I can't be the only person who's having these thoughts. And by the way, I was blogging about some of this, but it was kind of like piecemeal. I was having just different thoughts. I thought, I need to put this whole thesis together. And so I started, tracking down amazing stories of people, homeless people who became billionaires, Hall of Fame football players who had one leg, just like story after story. And I said, what's the DNA of all of this? What's really happening? And it was really a thesis for Dan Waldschmidt, really, not for anybody else. I was writing to myself to say, what are these other people doing that you could emulate, right? That you could
Yep.
use in your own conquest to achieve greatness. And that became the premise of the book that I just didn't feel like was being written or shared.
If you're enjoying this episode of Leveraging Thought Leadership, please make sure to subscribe. If you'd like to help spread the word about our podcast, please leave us a review and share it with your friends. We're available on Apple Podcast and on all major listening apps, as well as at thoughtleadershipleverage.com/podcasts. Cool. So now you have a vision for the book and you stay true to the vision and you wind up doing it on your own and putting your money where your mouth is because it's not worth fighting with the publishers. Fast forward to the point where you are now, where the book has actually sold a ton of copies and been fairly transformative for you and your business. Like, how did that happen?
So when I think part of it was you have to be a little bit of P.T. Barnum in launching your book, and here's what I mean by that. Now, don't copy what I tell you because this may not work for you.
Yep.
You have to do what works for you. Okay. So for me, I'm an introvert. If I do the Myers-Briggs, I'm an INFJ, which sounds crazy because I do keynote speaking and I'm the CEO of a company. I've written books and millions of readers, right?
Yep.
So you're kind of like, how's that fit? I don't know. I'm not paid to know. Sure, I just go do my thing. So because I had been blogging and because I had been, sharing my thoughts with the universe, I was constantly added to all these lists of top experts. Wall Street Journal said this guy's the top, 3 or 4 expert. So I kept getting added to these lists. I kept associating with these people, kept doing favors for people. I was in this group of about 100, 120 I guess you would call them top sales experts. I made friends with people like Seth Godin and John Jantz and Keith Ferrazzi and these guys who I looked up to. I thought they were amazing. And so, because I was pursuing their wisdom and guidance, I made relationships. And so, December of 2013, my book I knew was scheduled just to launch in February of 14. I made up what I called a box of awesome. Now, if you listening, you're
Okay.
thinking like, what the heck is this? I'll tell you. I had custom created packaging made up. And by the way, you can go to Packable, Pakible, packable.com for about $1 a box. If you're thinking, oh, Dan, if I had money, I could do this. Do you have $1? If you have $1, you can do this. So I made up some
Yep.
boxes. They were red and they had a fist. And that's it. And I think on the side of it even said, here's your fucking box of awesome. Right on the outside of the box, like wrapped around the edges of the box. It was very edgy, right? You open the box up.
Yep.
Inside, I had commissioned from Alibaba custom made brown leather vintage boxing gloves. Now that ties to the book because there's a story of what I consider the greatest sports comeback of all time, and it's
Sure.
the fight where Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas.
Yep.
Right? Greatest sports achievement of all time in my mind. And so I put a pair of brown vintage leather, kind of beaten up old time boxing gloves I had handmade in Pakistan. Why in Pakistan? Because that was the cheapest I could find them. Basically $150 a pair, stitched on the strap of the glove where you would tighten it up.
Yep.
Was the phrase "Stay edgy, be awesome." And then I had some I put a copy of my book. I put some other like a calendar. I put like a workbook. I put some other things related to this book. And then what I did was I took one copy of my book and I ripped it apart, every page. And I then wrote a handwritten note using a Sharpie marker on top of a page of my book. And obviously, if you're listening, you think, why would I do that? Well, I picked out a page that I thought was halfway interesting. Maybe it had half of a story on it or an illustration or something. And I wrote a handwritten note, hey, Keith, enjoyed learning from you. And, pleased by our friendship. Wanted to share something with you that's been near to my heart. I did not ask.
Yep.
I did not ask for anything. I just shared it. And so what happened
Yep.
was all these boxes went out, and literally we have pictures. Our floor of our, if you imagine, if you're sitting 120 boxes of awesome, right? My floor was literally like like lined up like a Tetris game, and I'm walking around them, making sure the right notes go to the right person, the right books,
Sure.
handwriting all these stuff. Took us weeks to get this in order and ready to go. We sent it out the door. That was December, and then all of a sudden, this crazy thing happened. People were like tweeting pictures. Just got this from @Dan Waldo. What are you trying to do? I had people like these are famous people coming back to me saying, "What do you?" So, dude, impressed by the quality of everything you've sent me. How can I help you?
Right.
Or what are you trying to achieve?
Well, and I think it's about part of it is about A, putting in the effort, the hard work, the guerrilla marketing, and B, standing out. And it also shows the passion. Like if this guy's crazy enough or passionate enough
Yeah.
to do what he's doing, and by the way, his brand is edgy, and by the way, that's kind of ballsy and edgy to send boxing gloves and notes and all these things to a bunch of strangers that you admire. Like, if nothing else, wow, you got my attention. So I know, like I'm sitting in my office surrounded by hundreds of books because of
Yep.
my comfort, right? And I took out your book in anticipation of today's show, and it's it's sitting on my desk, and it stands out, right? It's red
Yeah.
and it's got drawings all over the place. I'm like, okay, this is like different than sort of most. If I were to randomly pull 30, even if the New York Times bestsellers off my shelf, there's a level of sort of sameness there.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting, but it's not obnoxious. You know what I mean? There's a point. There's a logic and a point to it.
Yeah. Thank you. So, by the way, going back to 2010, 2011, 12, one of the things that we said was, and I think I told you this privately, we wanted to disrupt. Not just, what good is a message? What good are stories if no one reads it, right? Nothing. It makes no difference if someone doesn't act on it. So
Right.
our mission was to disrupt everything visually. So the book's red with white letters on it. It's tactilely. It's got a aqueous rubber coating on the cover of the book. You can dip it in water. It'll be fine. You can pour water on the
Yep.
cover of the book. It drips right off. It's made that way. In fact, the most expensive part of the whole book is the cover itself.
Yep.
Each page is made out of like magazine paper, right? So it feels good on your fingers. You're like, this is your mind, your subconscious, your gut instinct, that part of you that makes most of your decisions in life is saying, this is different than everything I've seen. the book, it's right aligned on the left page and it's left aligned on the right page, meaning if you look down the center of the book, all the pages are justified. Right down the middle of the book, not on the edges where they might be.
Yeah.
And of course, we write horizontally. It's just every tiny little detail. My commission to my team was, how do we disrupt? And so what happens is someone picks it, they see it across the room because it's red, and then they touch it with their fingers and they go, oh, that's different.
Yep.
They flip it open and they notice, wait a minute, are there drawings? Are there colors? Wait a minute, is that a story?
Yep.
And of course, all the stories are in red letters. All the rest of the book is in black letters. So
yeah, but let's get to now all the things that you've done to differentiate and launch that book, and let's get us to and sort of the so what. So what has been the impact on? Well, let's sort of split the impact question. The impact that you've made to others, and how has it impacted, transformed, changed your business as a result of all this effort and energy?
So this is probably so I quickly built an audience of over 1 million people. Let's flash to all the highlights. 1 million people.
Yep.
I actually took that group off of Facebook and have a private community on a platform called Mighty Networks, which I'm in love with, and allows a little more intimacy. Look, I'm like, yep, I'm sorry if it takes you one extra step to go to a different platform than where you're chatting with your friends. Yeah, so be it. So
be it.
Right. We have 1 million years. Now for business, I've always kept this separate from my business. And I don't know. You can tell me if that's absolutely crazy or not. But as a businessman, I'm known for a different set of skills. I'm known for helping companies achieve multi-billion-dollar success. In the last 10 years, the companies I've been a part of or led or consulted for we've helped them add $19 billion in new revenue. It's a huge number, right? So, and of course, we've been paid quite handsomely for that. So. I often will tell people, of course, the name of that company is Edgy Inc. The name of my book is Edgy. A lot of things, obviously are edgy, but even the brand is different. The color is yellow versus the book's red. Here's the benefit. One of the benefits is given me a framework to go to clients and say, listen. So the same thing that makes high performers in sports. It's the same thing that makes high performers in business. So you've asked me to help you put out this fire, help you grow. Let me, whether or not you've read my book or not, let me use the exact same formula. Let's be extreme. Let's be disciplined. Let's be giving. Let's give lots of value. And let's be human. By the way, that kind of makes sense. Think about the companies who annoy you. They're not human. They're robotic. Think about the companies that don't give you enough value, right? And so anyways, I won't go through each point, but that it's given me a framework that's helped me elevate.
Got it. And differentiate. So part of it is when you're going out to the clients that you're working with, showing them that you eat your own dog food, right? I didn't just launch a book the way everybody else does it. I didn't just get it out there the way everybody else does it. Does that represent the type of thinking?
And it shows quality. Again, like you said, you brought up a really good point. It's qualities. Whether someone reads, I had the president of the largest, I got a phone call from a chief of staff who called me, the president of one of the largest healthcare companies in the world.
That's cool.
She said, hey, my president wants to talk to you. And I was like, oh, hi. And she said, I was flying back home on our corporate jet and someone handed me your book from an event you had done or something like this. And I read it. And she said, I don't read business books because most of them are ridiculous.
Right.
And I chuckled. She said, I can't tell you why, but I had this visceral reaction. Like, I don't get emotional, but I was emotional. And I want to talk to you. And I said, okay, well, we're talking now. And she said, no. I mean, like, when can you be in our office? And I said, and I was there. And I'll just make this point. I didn't have to close a deal.
It was gone.
I didn't have to sell a deal. All I had to do was, be a connection, be a friend, be someone who can listen. And then, so my business skills automatically shone through. And time after time after time, that's helped us. We've helped everybody from, the 19 of the 21 biggest banks in the world to, like Turkish Airlines. I mean, like the big Panasonic, Cisco, Microsoft, these big companies, they're looking for people with talent who are human. And that's the benefit you have as an author. You can take, I tell this to our team all the time. I mean, I'm a voracious reader. Someone has taken years of their life to compile together a thesis that makes you, change everything you've ever thought about a subject or propel you faster towards your destiny.
That's the opportunity.
That's how awesome. Yes, that's incredible.
Well, this has been fantastic, Dan. As we wind down, Any last minute tips, tricks, tactics, or advice to folks that are out there in the process of launching their platform or putting their books together or getting their message out?
Yeah, the greatest after the initial launch, which is like 1 month, by the way, right?
Right.
That's when everyone cares about your book, right? And then even the people who will want to help you, it's like they start falling off. They got to go back to their regular job, their regular life to help you. So think about that initial launch. Which, by the way, we sold 14,000 copies in our first month. What's funny is we added many more after that. If you just do the math, 4 years, 550,000.
Yep.
You're adding many factors of that each month. Let me just give you a bit of advice: is that the quality of your book is what determines if people share it with somebody else.
Yep.
You've heard before that if someone's mediocre, they don't tell anybody. Heard before that if they're angry, they tell a lot of people. What you may not know about books is, for those who read, they know other people who read. And whether you're running, I meet with these executives all the time who say, hey, what do you read? What you read lately?
Yep.
And you know what? If your book is not potent, not powerful, you just don't get mentioned. But I guess the opposite is true. Let's talk about the positives. If you write something that's moving and interesting and powerful, that person doesn't check at all. They go and buy your book, and then they share it,
Yep.
and then that person shares it. It becomes a tidal wave, right, sweeping over you because you wrote something of impact. So
Absolutely.
stop. Don't try to rush it out the door. Don't try to just make it your calling card. Don't just think, oh, I'll do this one. Okay. Like, take a second and think, this is permanent.
Yep.
Like, this is a tombstone. This is permanent. And what can you do to make this that next bit of awesome?
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that, Dan. A lot of great insights and information today. So I appreciate your time and sharing with us, and appreciate the book. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. And look, if any of the authors listening need help or want information, or truly interested in transformation, truly being transformational, I am all yours. Google me, danwaldschmidt.com. You'll see my contact information. Call me on the phone. I'll stop what I'm doing to help you. If you want to change the world, I want to help you.
Fantastic.
If you want to go through the motions,
not so much. Thanks, Dan. To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.